The former Diddy assistants who say they were threatened, abused, underpaid, and even one who claims she was sexually assaulted, are they going to be the downfall of the rap mogul? Their testimony is explosive and so important to this sex trafficking and racketeering case. We are going to go through what they had to say and how it fits into the overall charges. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law&Crime. I'm Jesse Weber. Okay, we're back. Another day in Sean Combs' criminal sex trafficking, racketeering, prostitution trial. We have another recap of today's testimony. This is the continued testimony of alleged victim Mia, testifying under a pseudonym. There is a lot to break down with respect to her direct testimony, her cross-examination by the defense. Remember yesterday, she testified that she was verbally, physically, sexually assaulted by Sean Combs, goes to potentially forced labor as the underlying crime of racketeering. Remember, prosecutors have to prove at least 2 underlying crimes of racketeering. Forced labor is one of them. I also think her testimony goes to this pattern of criminal activity for racketeering. And her testimony, of course, helps corroborate Cassie Ventura's claims of physical abuse by Sean Combs, Cassie being victim number 1 in this case. So what did she say today? Well, I'll tell you what, before we even get to Mia's testimony, one other thing you might have been seeing in the news, got to address. So it came out today that President Donald Trump, who seems to have been friends with Sean Combs through the years, they've been photographed together, he had a statement today. It seems he was asked, would he ever be open to pardoning Sean Combs if he's ultimately convicted of these federal crimes. What did he say? Well, he said, I know people are thinking about it. I know that they're thinking about it. I think people have been very close to asking. First of all, I'd look at what's happening, and I haven't been watching it too closely, although it's certainly getting a lot of coverage. I haven't seen him. I haven't spoken to him in years. It's different. You become a much different person when you run for politics and you do what's right. I could do other things, and I'm sure he'd like me, and I'm sure other people would like me, but it wouldn't be as good for our country. As we said, our country's doing really well because of what we're doing, so it's not a popularity contest, so I don't know. I would certainly look at the facts. If I think somebody was mistreated, whether they like me or don't like me, it wouldn't have any impact on me. Now, not to get too political, but as we know, the president has been making a lot of pardons recently, although this one feels very different. Although he was a little ambiguous in what he would do, this one, out of all the pardons he's been issuing recently, this one feels kind of different. These are violent allegations. These are sexual abuse allegations. There is an argument that whether or not Sean Combs is even guilty of these federal crimes, there's a lot that's been documented about domestic violence in videos and photographs and testimony. So it might just be too ugly for him to pardon Combs, and what the justification would be if he's ultimately convicted of this. Sure, can side with the defense's argument that this wasn't a fair trial, that these allegations don't amount to federal crimes. But is the Diddy case one of those issues that's bipartisan? What benefit would he have to ultimately pardon Sean Combs if he's convicted of these crimes? I'm not going to get into that right now, but just something to keep note of, that there is a possibility if Sean Combs is convicted of sex trafficking, racketeering, transportation to engage in prostitution, his sentence, his conviction, there could be a pardon here. We shall see. All right, now let's get into Mia's testimony. Let's talk about what happened today. So for that, I want to bring in Law&Crime's reporter Elizabeth Millner, who's been our eyes and our ears. She has been in that courtroom every day of this testimony, including today. Elizabeth, it's great to see you. Before we even talk about Mia, there was something interesting that happened at the beginning of the day, and not a lot of people reporting on it. Real quick, back and forth before the jury came in, there was a discussion between the attorneys and the judge over charts. And when I was listening to this or reading about it, I want to hear what you have to say about it, what happened. I think this goes to the transportation to engage in prostitution charges, which we don't talk about a lot, right? The idea that Combs allegedly transported victims and sex workers for the intent of prostitution, for sex work, right? What was the discussion about charts?
Well, it was pretty interesting, at least to me, Jesse, because I think when a lot of people hear, oh, summary charts and graphics and that type of sort, that maybe it doesn't stand out to them. Maybe it's not as interesting. But to me, what the prosecution was pretty much saying was very interesting. And so the defense originally was kind of complaining, in a sense, just about the government's summary charts, that they don't like this particular category in these charts. And that is in reference to the escort category. They specifically said one particular name today in the outside of the presence of the jury, and that was an escort named Jules. And we know Jules very well. He was the escort inside that hotel room at the Intercontinental Hotel incident in 2016, but also he was an escort that Cassie and Diddy used often during freak-offs, according to Cassie's testimony. And so the defense was essentially saying that they don't like the escort category when kind of comparing their flights and the hotel booking. And this, it seems like a summary chart from the government that they want to introduce as some kind of demonstrative or some piece of evidence in order to kind of make this pretty clear to the jury. And so what the defense was essentially arguing was that they don't connect that the escort necessarily went to the hotel just because that they had a flight on that exact same day. The defense pretty much said that they were simply travel records, whereas the government says, sure, we can take out the escort category, that's fine, we'll still keep the names, but the summary witness will pretty much, when they are called to the witness stand, will pretty much say that these charts are going to kind of compare the hotel date to the flight that was booked. So, for example, if Cassie or Diddy had reached out to a certain person to just be like, hey, do you want to come over to LA or Miami or Vegas or New York, and then you see an escort booking a flight for that exact same day, I think the government kind of makes a strong argument that these kind of help go to count 3 and 5, and that being transportation to engage in prostitution.
Hey, so look, I know you guys are all true crime fans out there, but anybody also in a business of some kind? If so, I want to tell you about our sponsor, Odoo. Why? Because Odoo is an incredible all-in-one business management software that provides you with a range of applications like their sales tool. The Kanban pipeline, it's a game changer. Whether you're working with leads or full-blown opportunities, you can visually track every stage of your sales process. Just drag and drop to move deals forward. It's fast and honestly kind of satisfying. When it's time to send a quote, it's literally a couple of clicks. The reporting, super clear. You get a live view of your pipeline, conversions, what's working, so you can focus on closing and not guessing. Right now, you get a free 15-day trial of Odoo's all-in-one business solution. See how it can make your life a little bit easier. Check it out at odoo.com/sidebarcrm. Now we got to talk about alleged victim number 4, Mia, Combs' former employee, again, testifying under the pseudonym Mia. So she gets back up there, and she is continuing being questioned by the prosecution. She is their witness. This is before Brian Steele, Sean Combs' defense attorney, began the cross-examination of her. So she's testifying under direct. And my understanding is it was a lot of discussion about alleged threats that were made by Sean Combs, right?
Yeah, there were. So when Mia comes to the stand today, it was kind of the same as yesterday, where she kept her head down. She kind of had her bangs in front of her face, and she just kind of walked to the witness stand because the witnesses go to the stand before the jury is brought in for the beginning of the day. So she comes back in. Her support system is kind of behind her, as well as what we presume to be her attorneys, too, because they're normally in the suits. But she walks straight to the witness stand, takes a seat, but kind of has that same effect that she had yesterday, where she was keeping her head down from what I could see, even while on the witness stand. But I will say, Jesse, even when she was testifying today, I felt like her tone was a little different. Now, yesterday was a very heavy day. They discussed a lot during her direct testimony, at least for day 1, and they really discussed a lot of heavy topics, specifically the sexual abuse allegations. She was very emotional on the stand. But I will say this about her today. She kind of spoke a little bit more with an upbeat, if I could say that word, to kind of describe her demeanor just while she was on the stand, as opposed to yesterday, where she was very quiet, soft-spoken, raspy at times, and emotional. But just as far as just some of the threats that were made to her, the government kind of pointed out an incident back in October of 2015 when Mia was down in Cape Town, South Africa with Cassie while Cassie was filming a movie. And so Diddy had told her to go to South Africa, according to Mia's testimony. However, Cassie caught Diddy cheating on her. There is a video posted online. This video was with Puffy or Diddy, along with Diddy's girlfriend, Gina. And so Mia had said that Cassie was devastated by this and that Cassie stopped answering Diddy's calls. So Diddy had Christina Coram and other staff members try to get Cassie on the phone. So we see an exhibit photo from October 26th of 2015. It's a text exchange between Christina Coram and Mia. Christina Coram's like, hey, it's KK. Did you get these? PD wants to talk to you. Sorry, messenger, don't shoot. Mia's essentially saying, I tried to call him. Christina Coram said, well, you can call me first. The audio call is not completed. And then they kind of talk about how Mia was getting all these kind of incessant phone calls from not only Christina Coram, but also Diddy, just trying to get in touch with her. She says that at times she was sleeping, there was a time difference. And so that was the essence of that. But even as far as threats to the job, she had kind of teased a little bit into this during her direct testimony yesterday, where she was explaining that she would get suspended and suspended without pay for issues just as simple as Diddy being mad at her and using this kind of as retribution towards her. And so she was kind of explaining that she was suspended for even oversleeping on the job because she was be awake so long. Then we kind of see an exhibit photo of a notice that kind of needed some further redaction. So it went up, it went down, but we were able to kind of get the gist of it. So this was from March 11th of 2011, and it was an email from Bad Boy HR or Bashta just about Mia's suspension. And so Mia was suspended in this instance without pay, and this has happened to her before. Diddy had asked Mia to get him a lot of options for workout clothes, and she had explained that this is normally a stylist's job, but Mia did what Mia did, and she did her job. She got out all these workout clothes for Diddy, laid them all out, and I guess Diddy cursed at her and got angrier and angrier, she had said. Mia tried to point out there were other options as far as Diddy could use for workout clothes, but she explained that this just made him more irate, and Diddy was screaming, he was cursing at her, but she doesn't remember necessarily the details of the violence, but knows that something violent happened in this particular instance. And we see another exhibit, this being an email from a couple days later on March 25th of that same year. It was an email between Mia and James Cruz. This was Diddy or Puffy's manager. And James Cruz says, who's handling the tickets for the Kid Choice Awards? Because I want to bring my kids there. And Mia says, I don't know when that is, but he's currently firing me at the moment, smiley face. And while she's even kind of saying her own messages, she is kind of saying like, I don't know when that is, but he's currently firing me at the moment, smiley face. Like that was kind of her tone, which was, I felt, very different from how yesterday was. And then James Cruz had responded something along the lines of LOL, but he had said more, but you know how it goes. Everything just goes so fast. Mia responded, no, for real, and then said, sad face. Mia said, he said I talked back to him over workout clothes. So it all kind of all fell together. And then we see another exhibit from that same day, this one, an email from Mia, or excuse me, this was an email from D-Rock to Mia, where D-Rock explained what happened. And Mia said he went bat SHIT on me because he didn't see all the workout options. What he'd say, what's he saying in the car? Give me a warning before you guys come back. Because she said she didn't want to be in the space when Diddy came back because she didn't want to know, or she didn't know what type of mood he was in and potentially what type of anger that he could protrude on her. And so she said that she was worried about feeling his wrath. And in this instance, again, she was suspended without pay. And so we see another exhibit, this one from Mia, this one between Mia and Vashta, which was Bad Boy HR. And the email, again, goes by so fast, or the memo goes by so fast. But it said, on Friday, March 25th of 2011, you were suspended for 5 days. Diddy had said that she was insubordinate, and Mia had said that she wasn't being insubordinate, and that those weren't the only memos that were sent to her. They didn't include in these memos that Diddy was violent towards her. She was pretty much sad. She was confused, and that she didn't know what she did to essentially deserve this treatment in a way.
Didn't she also say that Combs had threatened to take away a TV show for her, or to something regarding ABC?
Mia was explaining while she was on the stand that Diddy around this time didn't want to be doing Revolt films anymore. He kind of wanted to focus on other projects he was working on. But Mia was super excited about this particular project. It was this scripted pilot show that was supposed to go to ABC. It was pretty much about the life of being Diddy's assistant. And this was a project that she was pretty excited about working on. But after an argument between Diddy and Mia, according to her, must have did something to Diddy, and Diddy took away this project from her. And for the most part, this project never even came more into fruition beyond the development point because it never had aired. It didn't get greenlit necessarily because Diddy essentially took this project away from her. And she had explained that all she wanted to do was work in television and films, and she was super eager about this opportunity. However, this was another instance where he took things that she really worked hard for, she says, away from her.
Now, I think after reading the testimony, some of the most shocking moments came towards the end, okay? There was this back and forth about what happened after Cassandra Ventura filed her lawsuit in November 2023. This is very, very interesting because I want to keep in mind these allegations about whether or not Sean Combs or anybody in his orbit maybe was engaged in tampering with a witness or bribing a witness. Those are underlying predicate crimes for racketeering. What happened, Elizabeth, after Cassandra Ventura filed her lawsuit in November of 2023? What did Mia say?
Yeah, so to your point, Jesse, this was towards the end of her direct examination. And so, yes, they were kind of talking about Cassie's now settled federal lawsuit against Diddy. But it's interesting because Mia had explained that around this time she heard from D-Rock, and D-Rock was not Diddy's security guard at the time because, again, this is 2023. He wasn't on the job anymore. He was spending more time with his family. However, D-Rock, out of the blue, reached out to Mia. And so we see this exhibit. It's a text message between D-Rock and Mia, and this is on this is on November 30th of 2023. So I believe about a little bit more than a week after Cassie's lawsuit was settled. And so D-Rock says, "Hey, what's up, Mia?" And Mia responds, D-Rock. And that's kind of the way she was saying it, even while she was on the witness stand today. So she was like, hi, how are you? I miss you so effing much. And D-Rock had responded, a lot's been going on. I'm about to call you. And so this call happened on November 30th of 2023. When D-Rock had called Mia on that day, he was saying something to the effect of, it's crazy what's going on, said that Cassie and Diddy would fight like a normal couple. Mia said that D-Rock would witness a lot, so she kind of thought it was weird that he was talking like this, and she said it didn't even seem necessarily like him to kind of say these things. And D-Rock had told Mia that Puffy or Diddy missed her. And so Mia said that others surprisingly were kind of echoing the same thing, that this was just a normal couple situation, that this wasn't abusive or toxic, nothing to that effect, that the fights between Cassie and Diddy were just nothing more than what normal couples go through, which is interesting because even during trial, it seems like that's what the defense's perspective has been. But D-Rock had said that he was landing in Miami to go where? To Puffy's house or Diddy's house, and it was essentially to take care of Christian, who is Diddy's son. And so D-Rock said that Puffy wanted to talk to Mia, and Mia thought that Puffy or Diddy wanted her to make this public statement. So then there's an objection by the defense. That objection is sustained. Mia said that she had acted like she wanted to talk to him, but she said that she was scared to talk to him. She's recalling all this trauma that she went through, and that on that same day, and a few hours later, or just something soon to D-Rock's call, Puffy or Diddy had called her too, and Mia had explained that she threw her phone and just ran outside because just getting Diddy's message or getting Diddy's phone call was so triggering to her. That's what she had said. And so then we see another exhibit from D-Rock, and these are text messages again with Mia, but they're a couple weeks later. They're on December 5th of 2023. And D-Rock had said, your boy wants you to call him. He just called me, and Mia didn't respond to this message. Then we fast forward to February 2nd of 2024. We see another text exhibit, this one of D-Rock saying, good morning, did you speak to P? P being Puffy. He called me. Are you okay? I can't believe you aren't hitting me back. Mia responds, hi D, so sorry. I just finished scuba diving all day and didn't have a phone on the boat. I haven't talked to him. I don't have my phone alerts on. I called back with no answer, but Mia said she was lying. She said she didn't call Diddy back. And D-Rock had said, well, let me know. I can send you something. And Mia perceived this something to be possibly money. And Mia responded in this text message. She didn't say that she thought it was money in the text message. She said this during her testimony today, but Mia responded in the text saying, no, I didn't ask for anything. And I'm kind of paraphrasing here. She said a lot more, but Again, these exhibits go by so fast, but D-Rock said, well, I'm allowed to send my sister a gift because the two thought of each other as kind of big bro, little sister. And again, Mia thought that this gift or this little something special was money. And so the last message that we see from D-Rock is on February 3rd of 2024, where D-Rock tried to call. Mia said, hi, D, love you. I was on a boat all day. And then Mia was saying that she was essentially trying to play dumb, and that Diddy, on that same day, sent her 2 text messages. And Mia thought that Diddy was using D-Rock to make sure that Mia wasn't a threat to whatever was going on. Because by this point, Jesse, we all know that Diddy was facing kind of a number of different civil lawsuits and civil litigation right after the trickle effect from Cassie's lawsuit. So I think that from maybe Diddy's perspective, he was trying to reach out to Mia, make sure that she could maybe kind of either be back in his good graces or maybe say something along the lines of he was a good person. It felt like that type of thing. Then we see another message, this one the following day on February 4th of 2024, but this one was from Diddy to Mia, where Diddy said, hey Mia, it's Puff. Please let me know when you got 10 minutes to talk. Love you. Hey, I don't want to be blowing up your phone, because in between the love you and hey, I don't want to be blowing up your phone, Mia didn't respond. So in the next message, and that being 3 days later on February 7th, Diddy had responded, hey, I don't want to be blowing up your phone. Just had my memory jogged on some things. You were my right hand for years. So I just want to remember who was even around me, and it would be good to hear your voice. And Mia said that she was terrified to get these text messages. And then as they're kind of ending the direct examination, Mia said that she's not working right now. She still has PTSD, and that part's going to be stricken from the record because there was an objection from the defense. But she was saying that she still has PTSD. She says she's triggered in normal situations. She feels overwhelmed. Someone could say, hey, where are you? And they're just talking about grabbing a coffee. But from Mia's perspective, and according to her testimony today, she was explaining something just like that even just kind of makes her heart race, and she just feels triggered even as someone simply asking, hey, where are you, given everything that she had went through while on the job with Diddy. And so she says that she triple guesses everything she does. And then on the final question, the prosecutor asked, and who caused you kind of triple guess yourself? And she had ended her testimony under direct by saying, Puffy did this.
Gotta say, that timing, if true, of him reaching out to her and the way that he reached out to her, very, very interesting. Because if I recall correctly, could be wrong, I think he might have been aware, or his attorneys might have been aware, that the government had started investigating him. And if that's the case, and the prosecution can prove that, that again may help with the tampering and the bribery, if you accept that that's what a gift with D-Rock is. I think that's important for the overall narrative and also for the racketeering charge. Now, before we move into the cross, before we move into it, and the theme has been she's alleging quite the abusive situation, and Brian Steele really hit upon that based on messages that she had posted and things she said. Before we even get into the cross, didn't the prosecutor, when questioning Mia, get a little bit into that? A little bit of messages where she wrote Combs, I love you, or something of that nature? So before we even move into the cross, on direct, it seemed like they were trying to anticipate what the defense was going to get into, right?
So absolutely, Jesse. So we saw some of those text exhibits, and I do kind of agree with your point that I do think that the government was trying to get ahead of this, where, for example, we saw an exhibit email from Mia to Diddy, and this is on October 17th of 2015, where Mia had said, hey, Puff, how are you? You know I love you and would do anything for you, smiley face. I bought my own ticket with my own money to make sure that C being Cassie, was good. It's expensive to kind of keep changing my flights, and Mia was explaining even while she was on the stand that she says, I love you or love you to like pretty much everyone within the staff, because she felt like these people were her family. She and Puff kind of exchanged I love yous back to one another. And so I do think that the prosecution was trying to get ahead of it. But I will say this, that when the defense came out during their cross-examination, I will say that there were a lot of kind of like head scratches within the exhibits, just of what was shown by the defense versus what was shown by the prosecution. So I think the government tried tried their best to kind of get ahead of it as far as why Mia, after someone who had allegedly sexually assaulted her, thrown spaghetti bowls at her, had tormented her while on the job, was still saying things to the effects of love you or heart you or smiley face and heart emojis, that type of thing, to their boss who by her account terrorized her while she was on the job.
And by the way, in that vein, right, that vein of this complicated relationship and how she felt about him, same conversation comes up with Cassie Ventura. Why didn't you leave? Why didn't you leave the job? Why didn't you step away? That came up during one specific trip, right? I think it was to St. Bart's. What happened there?
Yeah, so that's always the number one question when these things happen, right? Why didn't you leave? Why didn't you go? If your life was not the way you thought it would be, why did you continue to stay? But Mia explained while she was on the stand that she did try to leave in one instance, and this was New Year's Eve in 2010 going into 2011. And if you kind of know and you've been following this case, you know that New Year's Eve is a time where Puffy spends it with his kids. And in this particular trip, he actually spent it with his kids and Kim Porter on this yacht, as well as with Mia and some other staffers, celebrating what was supposed to be the new year of 2011. And so Mia was explaining that it was herself, Puffy, Kim Porter, Diddy's kids, another assistant was there on this yacht that Diddy had chartered. And Diddy called Mia to come to the room to count this money in this safe. And Diddy got angry because Mia was counting the money too slow. And Mia had said that it wasn't $100, that she thought it was a lot more than that, maybe possibly thousands. And Mia said that she was in shock that he got so irate with her. He chased her out of where she was counting this money. And Diddy said something along the effects of, "You better walk on water like Jesus, B-word." So while on the stand, Mia was explaining that normally security is the one that counted money. So when Diddy was yelling at her, she ran upstairs onto the third floor of this yacht because, again, Diddy has a lot of money. So, of course, there would be a third floor on a yacht. So while she's up on the third floor of this very expensive yacht, Kim Porter, the mother of some of Diddy's children, actually came up there and consoled her and tried to check on her and tell her everything was going to be okay. But then Diddy came upstairs and she being Mia, went and hid in the crew cabin. And she said that she had to get a tender boat, or I guess a boat that is kind of an extension of the yacht to kind of go back to the main island, and that the captain of this tender boat got a call that Mia had to come back, and she had to come back to the yacht. And she said that she just wanted to get away. She wanted to get out of St. Bart's, but the thing is that Diddy's staff had her passport. And so staff made Mia get into this car. Puffy or Diddy comes in and calls Michelle, who was then his chief of staff, and made up this story. And Mia said that she tried to chime in, and Diddy told her to shut the F up. And Michelle told Mia, just do what Puffy says. Puffy's going to take care of her. And Mia ended up going on a plane with Diddy to Vegas. And she said she felt like she just didn't have a choice.
Yeah, this is very consistent with what prosecutors laid out in the first few pages of the indictment against Sean Combs, when they talk about racketeering and this pattern of abuse towards women and also towards assistants and those who worked for him. It goes towards that. It also goes to this idea of forced labor, which we talk about so many times. And it wasn't just the hours that they worked, but if she was subjected to sexual assault and physical abuse, it kind of goes to the idea of she was forced to do this because of threats and violence and things of that nature. So she finishes up her direct examination, and then she is cross-examined by Brian Steele, one of Sean Combs' defense attorneys, the attorney who represented Young Thug, by the way. And the way it started, there was a lot of focus on her social media activity, right? What happened there?
So right before Mia comes back onto the witness stand for the cross-examination, because we took a bit of a morning break in between the direct ending and the cross starting, I saw the defense attorneys actually putting up a bunch of binders and notebooks onto the jury's different seats, and these were kind of a bunch of just demonstrative pretty much evidence of photos and pictures and text messages that they did right before Mia took the stand again. And so right when she had taken the stand, the jury's brought back in. Brian Steele does the cross-examination. I was wondering where he was going to go with this. Again, Mia had very heavy testimony just yesterday, and even just ending today, ending her direct examination today, I was really thinking, how is the defense going to kind of come at her in a way. Are they going to attack her? Are they going to be soft with her? But it seemed like from Brian Steele that he was a little tough on her, I will say this. So he starts off by asking her, oh, because of Sean Combs, you suffered this great deal. And Mia responds, yes. You had trauma working with Sean Combs. She says, yes. Oh, he made you do things that are unthinkable. Like, he was really exaggerating his words while he was asking her these questions. He did things to you that were unthinkable. He violated you in ways that are just unimaginable. And she says, true, or yes. Then Brian Steele starts throwing all these photos at her and messages at her, not literally, but in exhibits and in evidence. So we see an image of Mia from social media. Her face is blurred, so we don't see her real face in these exhibit photos, but it's from January of 2013, and these are posted to her personal account, and all that kind of sensitive information is redacted. And it's this photo of Mia posing with these Ciroc bottles, and Diddy used to represent Ciroc in a way as far as brand deals and advertisement goes. And Mia had wrote in this caption, what we do when you're not around at I am Diddy, hashtag Ciroc. And the defense says, well, this was 4 years after your employment. This was years after the sexual assault. And that's where kind of a lot of their questions were really going to. We see another exhibit photo, this one of on July 4th of 2013. But this one is a photo of Mia and Cassie. They're kind of holding their hands up on the beach, kind of that typical, beach photo, vacation photo type of vibe. In the caption, Mia wrote, custom-made Cabo bracelets because it's funny, hashtag rich AF. And the defense points out that Diddy paid for this vacation. Then we see an exhibit photo of Diddy, and the caption, again, these are posted on Mia's personal account, that say just the #1 guy on Forbes list getting a vanilla latte. We see another exhibit photo, October 17th of 2013, an Instagram photo. This of Carrie Morgan, who testified for the government just a couple weeks ago. We see it of Mia and Diddy all in this photo together. And the caption is, take me back to Burning Man. We see another exhibit photo the month later, November 4th of 2013. It's a photo of Mia pretending to give birth, and Diddy's kind of in this doctor's costume. It was kind of, I guess, for this Funny or Die skit, and Mia had participated, I guess, in the production of it and was just making kind of that funny post, I guess. And it was something that Andy Samberg had directed. And Mia wrote in this caption, last non-B-Day shout out to my mentor at I Am Diddy. Thank you for letting me give birth to my dreams. And Brian Steele at this point says, you posed with your rapist pretending to give birth. And this was really kind of I will say, a little of an aggressive moment. I did see one juror's head just kind of pop up from his notebook when he had said that, because it really was just like, oh my God, wow, he really just kind of threw it out there. And Brian Steele is like, November 4th is not only memorable to Mr. Combs, but it also is to you, because if you go back to her testimony from yesterday, she had said on November 4th, around 2009, I had said 2010 yesterday, but it was 2009, that Diddy had sexually assaulted her at his birthday party up at a penthouse here in New York. And Mia is responding, oh, I don't know what you mean. And Brian Steele is like, well, at Diddy's 2009 birthday party, you found yourself alone with Mr. Combs. And the defense, again, trying to point out this is the same day that Mia says she was sexually assaulted. Then they sort of kind of get into things that Mia didn't necessarily say, but kind of you would think that by her testimony yesterday, for example, when she had said that she had taken 2 shots, she had felt particularly woozy. And Brian Steele was like, well, you thought you were drugged. And Mia said, well, I didn't say that. And Brian Steele says, but you believed it happened. And Mia responded, it's possible, yes. And Brian Steele says, you felt without desire or consent. Mr. Combs put his hand up your dress. And Mia responded, yes. And you felt it was paralyzing, yes. And all that happened to you on November 4th of 2009. Mia responds, yes. But you still gave him a birthday shout out. And Mia says, yes. So then we see more exhibit photos. This one of Diddy and Mia together on Diddy's birthday on November 4th of 2013. And Mia wrote in this caption, happy anniversary to your B-Day last year. Since this year, you changed your B-Day on some Puff Daddy SHIT. Thank you for being funny, because you're effing funny, like really, really funny. The defense points out in this particular photo that Diddy was holding his genitalia and points out that, again, this is the same day years earlier that Diddy had sexually assaulted her, according to her testimony. We see another exhibit photo, and really it just kind of felt like an Instagram photo dump, if you will, because it was just photo after photo after photo just of Mia saying these really kind words to Diddy. So we see another photo of a bunch of people also celebrities in a pool together. It's Meek Mill, it's Cassie, it's Diddy, it's The Game, who is a rapper, and Mia is asked, this is a picture that you chose to post, and Mia said, yeah, because there are times during her testimony where she said that she felt forced to post these things and that she was only posting these things because she only wanted to show the very highs of her job, the really good moments. She said that Instagram at the time, which I kind of agree, at the time was just a place where you really just weren't posting the bad things, you were really just posting the highlight reels of your life, and that's what Mia's explanation was while she was on the stand of why she was saying all these very nice things about Diddy. Then you see an exhibit photo of a collage, Diddy and Mia, happy new birthday to my mentor, my inspiration, brother, I love you. So another instance where she's saying I love you. Then we see a whole bunch of other photos. We see Diddy and Mia in December 5th of 2013. We see a Ciroc billboard in Times Square where the caption reads, look, Mom, I'm on a billboard in Times Square. We see Cassie and Mia together on May 29th of 2014, and Mia saying in this caption, every hour should be like happy hour, rosé on Thursday, NYC approved, next stop Istanbul. And I think the defense was trying to point out here that maybe Diddy had paid for this trip, but Mia had said, oh no, Cassie had a club appearance, and the management company that did this club appearance was the one who had paid for this trip. Then we see Mia and Cassie on a Sprinter van together. Then we see more photo collages, Mia at Burning Man, Diddy and Muhammad Ali together, a photo collage of Diddy on his 45th birthday. And so there really was just a lot. And by a lot, I truly mean a lot of photo exhibits, particularly from Mia's social media account, that they just used in a way against her.
And so she basically said that it was a facade, right, to hide the truth. But didn't she also say at one point, and maybe it was about questioning her lack of memory about certain aspects of the sexual assault, that maybe I'm wrong about it. Did she say, talk to my therapist?
Yeah, she did. And she said even while she was testifying today that she really was kind of really coming to terms just with everything that she was going through, even while testifying in this trial, which for her testimony began just yesterday. And so there were points where Brian still was really kind of laying into her, where it's like, why are you saying these very nice things about your boss who tormented you and traumatized you and sexually assaulted you, and you're responding that you love him and that he's the best mentor and boss to you. And so Brian Steele said, what could be more horrible than what you described? There was an objection from the government. That objection was sustained. Then Brian Steele had asked Mia another question, still kind of along to this effect. But Mia had said, you know, the second that it went back to good, things were amazing. Again, kind of pointing back to when the highs were high, the low, they were high, but when the lows were low, they were very low. She said it was like an abusive relationship. There was shame. I don't know how to explain it. I was eager to survive. No one was there standing up to his behavior. I'm still unpacking it, even in therapy. And Brian Steele had asked, well, why would you be confused at all when Diddy acted like he would even kill you in some points? And he had asked, why did you need someone else to tell you that this was wrong? And Mia said, well, my logic brain and my trauma brain, it kind of always wins. You make excuses for people. I just wanted to be my best. I wanted to make people happy. I'm a people pleaser, and I forgive people all the time for things. And Brian Steele had asked, well, why didn't you confront him? And Mia said, I did confront him in St. Bart's in that particular instance, and that Diddy had told her in this instance when it comes to the St. Bart's trip that Mia was actually correct. And so Brian Steele was really kind of accusing Mia of just lying in a way about the sexual assaults even happening, and Mia maintained that she didn't lie. And I kind of felt like, in a way, that Brian still kind of needed to ease up just a little bit on her, because given that it was such an emotional day yesterday, again, I kind of felt like it was coming across like you're really kind of talking to a sexual assault victim and you're questioning, did these types of things happen? And so that was my perception of it. Now, it's not up to me. I'm not going into deliberations, right? It's up to the jury. But I will say I was wondering kind of how the jurors were feeling about this. Were they conflicted? Did they still believe Mia? Because really, Brian Steele, I will say, was very aggressive with her. And I thought at some points that she would crack, she would get emotional, but she didn't. She really kind of held her ground even during these really tough lines of questioning.
And to be clear, did you get a reaction from the jury? Because it's delicate. I've seen it in countless cases before. I mentioned it during the lunchtime show earlier today when I was covering the Harvey Weinstein trial in downtown New York. The way they cross-examined his defense counsel, the way they cross-examined the victims in that case, you know, from their perspective, their client's innocent. These people are coming over and lying about their client, hoping he gets convicted, right? Of course they're going to go, strong against them. The other way of looking at it is, you don't want to turn the jury off, right? After everything she testified to. There's a way to point out inconsistencies versus actually beating her up. Real quick, did you get anything from the jury about how they were reacting to this cross? And there's a lot more I want to get into with it, though.
Yeah, for sure. From what I could see of the jurors, it really was, again, another packed day inside that courtroom, a lot of heads in there. So when I was trying to get like little peeks here and there of them, what I could see was some of the jurors looking directly at Brian Steele. On the other side of the jury box, I could see some jurors looking right at Mia. I didn't see an instance from my point of view because I was kind of in the back corner a little bit in the courtroom in the gallery. But from what I could see, I didn't see like anybody wiping away tears, nothing to that effect. But really, it was just either their eyes were on Brian Steele or their eyes were on Mia. But I couldn't tell. Again, to me, they're very hard to read. I think for others, maybe they're a little more expressive. But to me, I just feel like I never know kind of what's going on in their head when they're thinking about just all this testimony and all this back and forth in a way.
I got a great question during the lunchtime show. How is this jury going to remember everything? Right? How are they going to remember everything at the end of 8 weeks of testimony, which again goes to the importance of the jury instructions, importance of the closing arguments. I've said it before, I said again, I think this whole case comes down to the closing arguments, how each side summarizes everything that happened and matches it up to the elements of the crimes. We'll get to that at a later date. Okay, speaking of the lunchtime show, which we do on YouTube, where we take people's comments, there was a controversial moment that we were breaking down for about 20 minutes. This all had to do with some sort of video, this 2013, 2014 video that, if I'm understanding it correctly, the defense got last night, and there was a whole issue about whether or not someone posted it on social media and whether or not Mia's identity was revealed and how they got it and whether or not they could cross-examine her about it. It was a little complicated reading the transcript. What exactly happened here?
Well, I will tell you this, Jesse, and I think I've told you this before, is that some of the best moments I feel like of this trial are always outside of the presence of the jury. It's really when it comes down to these arguments, half of the time, because it's whether or not certain pieces of evidence will go in as evidence, or whether or not that they'll not be used as evidence or be used as a demonstrative. But it seemed like from the defense's perspective, they really wanted to get this 20-second or 30-second video in, because you could tell that they were upset with just how yesterday went for them, because it really was a heavy day, and I can't emphasize that enough. There were people who were emotional inside the gallery. I couldn't see if people were emotional inside the jury box necessarily, but there have been reports of that. But as far as just how yesterday went for them, it didn't look too good for them. And so I think what the defense was trying to do was introduce this particular piece of evidence because they felt like this showed the real Mia. They said the Mia that was on the stand yesterday testifying wasn't how she truly is. They were trying to show Mia in her true form. They were saying the person that they saw on the witness stand, they didn't know how her direct examination would even go. And so you could feel that they were a little upset just kind of how the events turned yesterday. And so they wanted to put this video and of Mia saying happy birthday to Diddy, and that Diddy's defense believed that it had a lot of probative value. They said they wanted to use it for impeachment, but they got the video just yesterday, the video again being 20 seconds long. But then there were points where Brian Steele was initially making this argument. Alexandra Shapiro just kind of jumps up out of her seat and asks the judge, hey, can I chime in here? And the judge said no, and in a very stern way. He was like, no. And so the defense was kind of pointing out that Mia felt obligated to post these happy birthday posts on her social media platform and photos. But this video in particular, they say, really kind of shows that it was just the exact opposite. Then Shapiro is able to chime in. And she says that this witness is trying to present herself as traumatized, but the video shows the opposite. It shows her real self. And the defense says that they found this video just yesterday. But the judge said, so you're telling me you didn't view this video until yesterday, but it was always in your possession? Because then there was this whole debacle on whether or not the defense even had this in their possession beforehand, because they were claiming that somebody sent this to them, because after Mia testified that her real name had gotten out there and that people were reaching out to the defense, sending the defense attorneys videos of Mia. And so they wanted to admit this video in, but then there was just kind of a hiccup on whether or not this was always in their possession, or whether or not that this video just came into their possession yesterday. The government felt like it wasn't in good faith that they didn't turn over this video to them. And so the judge kind of got a little mad at the defense and told them, why don't y'all take 5 minutes and confer with one another, being the defense attorneys get in a huddle in a way to kind of confer just how this video came into their possession. And so at this point, Alexandra Shapiro was chiming in, Brian Steele was chiming in, Mark Agnifilo was chiming in. It really was just kind of this back and forth. So yes, there were points where they were like, oh, this video is from 2013, someone sent it to us, but also it's in our possession. And the judge was like, well, you guys might not be complying with my order. So the defense steps out. They come back in 5 minutes later, and Alexandra Shapiro says, well, we all saw the video at different times, all being the defense attorneys. And so they said people on the internet told us that they figured out who Mia is. So we revisited using this video, and that this video wasn't posted to her social media. They found it on some random website, that there's no prejudice to the government, but there is prejudice to his defense if they don't show this video. And so then the judge views this video on like a laptop. He's wearing headphones, so unfortunately I couldn't hear what was said in this video. It didn't play for the entire gallery or the overflow room to hear. And then the government chimes in and they say that the defense should have turned this video over to the government yesterday when they knew they wanted to use it. They say it's in violation of the court's order, whereas Alexandra Shapiro is really feisty when she's doing some of these arguments. We haven't seen her cross-examine a witness yet. However, when she's doing these arguments, you really can see her get kind of a little animated, a little frustrated. She's like mouthing words to other defense attorneys. It's really a sight to see, I will say that. And so Alexandra Shapiro says, well, we saw the video yesterday on the internet, and the judge ruled that the video is precluded because the relevance and probative value is minimal and that it violated the court's order. And Alexandra Shapiro seemed pretty kind of annoyed about this. Like, she really just kind of was like, like that type of way. But then at the end of the day, Jesse, they revisited this because the defense was like, okay, we wanted to do this for impeachment. It doesn't fall under the court's order as far as, I guess, 403, 404 evidence. And Jesse, you can talk a little bit more about that. But the defense seems like they really wanted to use this video. And it seems like it's going to be a continued discussion possibly on whether or not they'll be able to use it if they can get the government to kind of look at this video, see all of this video and its contents, and possibly they could use the video too under their redirect. So it was some interesting arguments all over a 30 or 20-second video.
Look, it's important because there can be no surprise attacks at trial. There is a different story if something comes into your possession at the last minute, putting aside the fact if people started to figure out Mia's identity, that's quite the problem, to say the least. And you can have a piece of evidence that maybe is relevant, but what the court will not do is allow cumulative evidence, right? If it's hitting the same point that you've already hit so many times with all of the social media posts, and there's already this controversy with the video, rather not include it. So aside from the fact that she was cross-examined about a lot of these social media posts, I was reading there was a large discussion regarding a scrapbook that she apparently made for Diddy. So again, the man that she says abused her, sexually assaulted her, that she witnessed abusing Cassandra Ventura, that she was afraid of. Talk to us about the scrapbook.
Yeah, well, the scrapbook seemed like something that the defense really wanted to get in as evidence, but they were only allowed to use it as a demonstrative. And even when they were passing this particular scrapbook around to the jury, they really were like, okay, you can't be looking at it too long, getting lost into it. But it was a birthday present from Mia to Diddy for his 45th birthday. And so we see an exhibit photo of kind of this, I think it was a cover letter or just kind of this long, like, happy birthday note. So I was able to jot down the gist of it because it really was kind of pretty lengthy. And so she had said sometimes life goes by at catastrophic speeds. Then she goes on to say life keeps going and going. All of this to say that you get to take a step back and enjoy your accomplishments. I put together this book of articles from 1991 to 1999. And Mia was explaining the reason that she did this because I guess they were on a plane with Diddy and Mia, and Mia was kind of looking out of the window, I guess seeing the skyline, and Diddy said something along the effects that he used to have this look in his eye of just like, you know, like a whoa, but like I think as he got more powerful, as he got more money, that it just didn't have that same effect, and it was kind of that type of conversation where Mia was explaining that Diddy was being very vulnerable during this moment and that life didn't have much meaning to him, that she was kind of saying that that's kind of the reason that she made this scrapbook. And she said, how do you get someone who is very, very rich, meaningful birthday present? And so she came up with this scrapbook. And so Brian still did touch upon this. So a man who ruined your life, you write this to him? And Mia had responded, yeah, it's psychological abuse. And she said everyone at the office even excused his behavior. And so that's when Brian still goes into, okay, well, what could be more horrible than you described, just as far as Diddy's treatment to Mia. And so then what ends up happening is that this scrapbook is passed around to the jury. So I could see from where I was in the gallery, just the jury kind of thumbing through it. It's a bunch of different articles that Mia had gotten from, I guess, Diddy's archives, and that she put this together with the help of Diddy's archives. And as far as just kind of her contribution, in addition to putting the scrapbook together, was kind of highlighting pieces of this article, or these different articles, I should say, of just Diddy's accomplishment throughout the years, especially kind of at a pretty pivotal time from him, because if you think about the 90s, you think about Bad Boy, you think about just everything that happened during that time period. So unfortunately, it wasn't shown as an exhibit where we could see all the different articles, but what I could see kind of peeking near the jury box is that they were just a lot of different articles essentially about Diddy's accomplishments.
Fair line of cross-examination. It's fair line of cross-examination. It's expected that they would question her about this, about the social media post, because it's inconsistent, right, with what she's describing. However, from what we heard from Cassandra Ventura, what we heard from Dr. Dawn Hughes about the relationship between victims and abusers, there is another side of the story. And the prosecution would say it's another example of manipulation and control and trauma and the effects, which, by the way, one thing I don't think we talked about, talking about those factors, didn't she mention something about being able to attend her grandmother's funeral?
So Brian still was asking under the cross, you know, why didn't you leave this job? Why did you continue staying? You only left because Revolt Films was dissolving and that you were, in a way, terminated from your employment. And Mia was explaining that she felt like the family that she made working with Diddy, working with Puffy, was her family. There were points where she had missed very big kind of things in her life, such as her grandmother's funeral, such as just having friends outside of people who were in Diddy's orbit, in a way where she felt like, you know, these were these 8 years of her life that she was just around these people every day. She knew how to predict Diddy's moods at this point. She was very close friends with Cassie during this time frame, and still is very close friends with Cassie. And she referred to even like security guards like D-Rock as her big brother. And so she said that, as far as just missing just these big things or not going to outside friends or outside family, she said that for the most part, for that 8-year period, Diddy and his entire camp and his staff were her whole world, and that she didn't really know what to do next. And that kind of went to the point a little bit of why maybe I think people don't leave, that they feel kind of that they have to kind of stick by him even in tough times, even when he's mean to them, even when he's violent to them. But it seems like really just kind of, we've heard this from other witnesses too, where it was like, you know, they left when just something got so bad that they were done. But from Mia's perspective, and I think what the defense was also trying to do is say that you didn't leave because you were traumatized. You left because Revolt Films was dissolving at the time and that your employment was terminated.
Yeah, I've said it before, I'll say it again. It's not a black and white case. There's a lot of gray here that the jury's going to have to sort through. I anticipate quite a long deliberation process, but we're not there yet. So what can we expect on Monday after the explosive testimony and cross-examination from today?
Well, unfortunately, everyone, the cross-examination isn't necessarily over. So on Monday, we're going to be right back at it again. Mia will still be on the stand again doing the cross-examination. Brian still didn't say how much longer he had to go as far as his cross, and then we can definitely expect a redirect too. But it seems like possibly for most of the morning that we'll see Mia on the witness stand. Now, as far as what's coming next, we will probably see more witnesses. It seems like the government is trying to get in at least 2 more witnesses, including a hotel employee. So that's kind of what we could expect come Monday and beginning of next week.
And you'll be there. Elizabeth Millner, great seeing you, great reporting as always. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thanks, Jesse.
And that's all we have for you right now here on Sidebar. Everybody, thank you so much for joining us. And as always, please subscribe on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you should get your podcasts. I'm Jesse Weber. I'll speak to you next time.